Just making conversation. Do you reckon there's lyrics to that?
Do you know, I think we should make some. In fact, actually, do you know what? As per usual, let's just throw it out there completely without even thinking about it. I'm going to put it down to our listeners to come up with some lyrics for our tune.
Okay.
You've got till the end of the month, to the end of November, to forward us some suggestions for the lyrics.
And there'll be an enormous cash prize.
No. We will what we will actually do is we will.
No, we won't. I know you're going to say we're going to sing it, and we're not going to sing it.
No. Me and you are not going to sing it. I know our voices well enough to know that's not a good idea. However, the Just Making Conversation Choir will happily sing it for us. If you didn't see that video clip, check it out online. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't understand what was going on. A load of people singing.
Yeah, I didn't know either. That's why I recorded it. I thought it was quite amusing, and it was. But there you go. So yes, it is Tuesday. So it is after the big weekend at Telford, which we are suitably relaxed from now, recovering slowly. I don't think fully relaxed is the right word. How did you get on this weekend?
Right. So I'm completely exhausted. What is it? Tuesday night. So all last week I was preparing, getting stuff ready. Well, longer than that, but all last week I was using all the space I had at my disposal to get everything ready. So I had to make sure I had the right amount of tablecloths. I had to make sure that I had the right amount of banners. We had a show on the Friday to attend as well beforehand. So I had to make sure that was sorted. And then we still had stuff to put up on Saturday at Telford. And I had to get the buckets ready for the M4H stand. I had to get all the zeros, make sure they were ready. All going to be turning up, and that there's lots to do. There's lots of cogs to turn and levers to pull and ducks to get in a row and cats to herd. And it had people turning up who needed wristbands or didn't need wristbands or got wristbands from somewhere else. I didn't know where the wristbands were. They weren't at the desk where they usually are. They were in the gatehouse.
Oh,
I don't know if I was told that. I don't know. It seems different every time. No, I'm sure it's not, but for me, it just seems like the organisation is different every single time. Just when you think you know what you're doing, you know. But that's Telford for you, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the joys of a big celebration. It needs a big venue and lots of organising, and things do change and modify as they go along. So yeah.
But I mean, I've got another show this weekend up at Farnborough, which is a wargaming show called Warfare. Their instructions is 2 paragraphs. The instructions to get there and to get in is 2 paragraphs. And we're doing exactly the same role. So, yeah. Anyway.
Well, yeah, you're right. It was a great weekend. Getting in was interesting. They did change some of the rules from last year because I come unstuck a little bit on that as well. So, but it was lovely. It was certainly for me. It was a social weekend with a bit of volunteering and working, but nothing majorly hard, unlike the year before. So, which was nice. Lots of people faffing over me and telling me to sit down, stop walking about, stop talking a lot. There was a lot of that as well. Stop talking, James.
Yeah. You didn't know, did you?
No. We sang "Happy Birthday" several times to a couple of people, which is always good.
No, I agree. It was great. It was really good fun. Tiring.
Yeah, it was, and busy. That's what I like to see. It was really busy on Saturday.
Was it though?
Yeah, no, it was. It was around about the normal numbers, or what you would assume to be the normal numbers for Telford. Yeah. Sunday was a little quieter, I think, than last year. But maybe it was because I noticed it more than I did last year because it was too busy. I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe that's right. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are, but from what I don't know how the traders felt or what they got in return. But I felt the Sunday was quieter than previous Sundays.
Yeah, definitely was. Definitely.
M4H was busy up in that corner, hall 3. You know, the audience or the punters seemed to come in like waves. You know?
I got to the point. I assumed what was happening was the other two halls were becoming too busy, and they were squeezing a load of people into our hall, or they were coming through the door in those waves and they came straight over. I'm not sure which, but you're right.
I think a crowd attracts a crowd, doesn't it? You know, so once you get a couple of people there, people go, "Oh, what they're looking at," and then they go over there as well, and they go want to know what's happening, and then the more people turn up, and then they want to know what's happening. So yeah, I think that's why we had groups of people in and out. Certainly, I was talking to somebody all the time, or talking to two people or three people at the same time. Oh, can I just get you, Malcolm? I've just literally been pulled away from that conversation to have this conversation, and now I'm getting asked to have another conversation on top of the third one.
And of course, I was ever so annoying by keep saying to you, "Come on, you got to go for a walk. Get out from behind that stand."
If you hadn't, I wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Got out. No,
I wouldn't have got out. I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't have done. That was the only time I got out. Was to leave the building. To get in the building was the only time I left that. So yeah, you're right. And what did we see when we went out?
Well, we obviously, as we promised, we had our golden nuts. Just so happens.
Do you want to reiterate what golden nuts is? Because I imagine that's why know what that is.
That's why I decided that I would use a prop to explain. So when I say golden nuts, I mean exactly that. Golden nuts. So I'm holding up 2 walnuts that are painted gold. Why walnuts? I hear you cry. Is it just because you're sad and silly? Oh, there you go. I heard them. The reason it walnuts is because obviously we did our group build, which was for a walnut themed group build. And I was asked very politely by other podcasters as to whether we were going to be doing something where we could show our appreciation like they do, and they use coins because they're sensible. But I thought it showed the average person who may not know who we are and what we're about, that if I put a golden nut and a sticker next to your model, you would go, "What on earth is that, and why has someone done that?" So hopefully those that are listening, welcome. If it's your first podcast. That's the idea. We wanted to be different. We wanted to stand out on the table. And it's been a jovial weekend talking about our golden nuts.
Sure has. Yep.
So yeah, that's why we decided the golden nuts was because it would raise an eyebrow, give us something to laugh and giggle about throughout the weekend. In me keep mentioning it, and also it would generally make people think. I hope generally make people think, what is that about? And write down the fact there was a sticker next to them with Just Baking Conversation Podcast.
Yeah.
So,
did that work?
Well, yes, it did. I've had a few comments during the show of, I've seen you've been laying your nuts around, or I saw your nuts today, that sort of stuff. So a lot of the listeners to our podcast were looking around and scouring the tables. So what we did was we actually went into the competition area first, which was very timely done because the judging was almost finished. Which meant there was just the judges in there and us. And I think to be honest, the quote of the day comes from one of the I won't use his name. I'm just going to call him a yellow top. So one of the people that were involved in the organisation of the show. Actually, Malcolm prodded me and said, "You better ask permission." So I went over and said, "Oh, no, absolutely polite," and I was quite right. So I just said, "Oh, excuse me, is it okay if we just go around and put a few of our golden nuts next to some models, please?" To which I got a very strange look, and then he noticed that Malcolm was standing over me. I mean, beside me.
Yes, it got dark, hadn't it?
and basically his response was, "Is he with you?" Which Malcolm replied, "Yeah," and he went, "Malcolm can do whatever he likes."
It's not quite.
So I was no longer needed in the room in any way, shape, or form. It was the best dismissal I'd ever had.
It's not quite what he said.
Not quite.
Not quite.
But that's what I heard.
Yeah. He said, "Go ahead, do what you want, do whatever you want." So he did.
So we walked around and had a look at some models. I wouldn't say we were mean. We didn't put that many out. I have got some left over. But we were selective for a reason.
Yeah. And we didn't have any criteria other than what was going to leap out at you. And we had a little saying, "Is it nutworthy?"
That's it.
Yeah. And we only had a short amount of time to do this as well. I felt rushed. No, I mean, I felt like I wanted to be back at the stand. So it was, we didn't have very long. So we went round as quick as we could. Well, no, that's not true. No, we knew that we had to make haste.
Basically,
right?
we left the stand and they said, "Oh, how long will you be?" And I said, "Oh, 20 minutes. To which you said, "We'll probably be a little bit longer than that." But we were aiming to be back as reasonable as we could after we'd done what we needed to do. But what we didn't want to do, if you don't mind me saying, is we didn't want to throw my nuts around on all the models. We wanted to pick particular things out for particular reasons.
You didn't want to nut on everything.
No, it would spoil the nutness.
Yeah. So we just looked for stuff that stood out, right?
Yeah.
And we had an interesting conversation, and the conversations that we had between each other when we both agreed on something was when a nut would appear, I think.
That's correct.
So we had to be in unanimous decision to nut on it together.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
So
if you're watching on YouTube, obviously you can see a picture there, and if you're not, we're going to describe what you were looking at. And all these pictures are in the Telford Nut album on the Facebook page if you are interested. So the first one, we chose this one because we were talking about metalwork and weathering and all that sort of thing. And this one definitely jumped out at us as a nut-worthy type. So this is it's got a scratch-built canopy. It is in the aircraft class 13. So that's 171 up to 148 scale jet ASD. The description of the model says it's covered in aluminium foil, scratch-built canopy, seats, and wheel bay. So
we were talking about the shininess of natural metal finish, weren't we?
We were, yeah.
We were talking about the reflectiveness and whether it actually looked like metal or whether it didn't look like metal. And there were some in this area that didn't quite fit the bill.
It didn't convince us to a point. I mean, they look nice. Don't get me wrong. Let's clarify before we go any further. All the models in the competition were phenomenal, and we're not giving critique, it was all about what appealed to us and the reasons for it appealing to us. So we looked at several metal finished airplanes. Some were really very shiny. Some were very shiny with a few panels here and there, slightly subtly dulled or whatever effect was put on them. But this one specifically jumped out to me because it looks like how it should. It seems to be quite heavily weathered in a way. But the fact that someone has gone to the time to put tin foil on it rather than paint it, you can't argue it's not metal, because it is metal. They've put metal on it.
There you go. The believable materials is what we were talking about. Whether
that's right.
We were convinced that it was the material that it's painted as, but obviously it's not been painted. It's been foiled, but it was also weathered and foiled, and shiny, which I really liked. I absolutely loved the look of it, which I think worked better on this aircraft than it did on others. I mean, I don't know if it's meant to look like that or not, but it really stood out to me. So this is the 2-seater Starfighter, isn't it? And if it is your model and you are listening, then get in touch and say hello. Because obviously we don't know who these are, do we?
No, unfortunately. Fortunately for the competition, your names aren't on the slip, so we don't know the names. But as I said, the album is on the Facebook page, and if you want to go and claim your model and tell us a bit more about it in the comments, by all means, please do.
Yeah, we'd love to know and to have a longer conversation about them, wouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So the next one was a winner, and this was for in fact, he was a multiple winner. He got several couple of trophies and a gold as well for this.
Yeah, well, it's best in show too.
It was indeed. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, sorry, I forgot that. And I've got a couple of pictures because it is quite a big beast. Actually, I think it was 1/32 off the top of my head. But it was a large model. But this picture that we're showing now, do you know what? I can't think what it is. This is a Vickers Vimy H15085. I think I'm reading that correctly. So it's a biplane. Basically, you've got two engines, and you've got a person sat in the nose with his machine gun in front of the pilot, and it's a big beast, really big beast. But the thing that we both remarked upon, in fact, I think the picture I had it on there would probably be the best one, was that the weathering, wasn't it? Again, it was weathering that sort of drew our eye to this. Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, so I just imagine myself building this. Okay, I imagine myself building this as an expensive kit, spending lots of time on all the intricate details and all the rigging and making sure everything looks right and is perfect, knowing that I was going to put it into competition for Telford, and then having the massive balls to not weather it symmetrically. That was astounding to me, that you wouldn't put the exhaust stains, for example, all the way across on both sides. Because I would have just done that's it. There's your exhaust stains. But this one, it had distinctly different exhaust stains on both sides. Now I don't know whether that's down to research, whether that's down to maybe his airbrush ran out there, but no, we know that that is some good confidence there. You know, and the whole thing as a model anyway is lovely. But those two dirt marks on top was did it for me.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking at it and thinking oil stains. One of the engines has obviously got an oil leak because it's quite heavily weathered, whereas the other one's, it's not subtle. You can, it's quite visible, but it only takes up the front part of the top wing, whereas the other one it's like a great big fat lump of. It's almost like it's. Oh, I'm going to make it sound really bad now, but it's almost like someone has dropped some paint on that wing and gone, "Oh God damn it," and then made it look better. They haven't, honestly. They've obviously gone. That was what they wanted to do, but yeah, it's quite phenomenal to have that that amount of confidence in what you're doing and the story you're trying to tell. And also for me, that was one of the big things for me was this. It was telling a story. You know, it needs to stop to be maintained or something because it clearly needed. So it was running with some issues. And I, with all models, I was talking, funny enough, to Rob. I believe it's Rob from Elan 13, and we were talking about competition. Robert
Lane.
Yeah, sorry, Robert. Yeah, Robert Lane. We were talking about competitions and what appeals to us. And I've never really thought about it that much, but for me, I like the dioramas, and one of the main reasons I like the dioramas is because it tells a story and there's a back theme to it, and maybe several layers of themes to it. But you can achieve that on a single piece as well. And it was only in that conversation, really, actually, that it's the first time I actually put those two things together. And I've gone, thinking about it, all models that I like have got a theme to them, i.e. there is a story. It might be very subtle and very short, or it might be very long, depending on what the subject matter is. But yeah, that definitely tells a story and appeals greatly to me.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's not just a representation of a pretty aircraft. It's a pretty aircraft that's been scratch built entirely, but it's also got that little story about the dodgy engine or the oil splat or whatever.
Yeah, and there's a lot of the side of the main fuselage that's open as well, with all detail inside. It's just phenomenal work.
Yeah.
So you got a nut.
That one.
So on to our next model. Now this one, there is a theme running here, isn't there? This model is a Model T, I believe. I can't remember the size of it. Bear with me a second. Let me just see if I can find out. No, I can't.
It's 35th scale. That one is. Must be.
Was it 35th?
Must be.
Ah, there we go. It's because I zoomed in too much. So this is a Model T 1911, which I believe is an ICM kit, 135th. It's a touring US passenger car, is what it says. Really? But this one bronze, and this actually is a derelict vehicle, just abandoned and looking worn and unloved, but just so amazingly done. It again tells a story, but it's quite subtle, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Model T, aren't we? So yeah, it's very subtle in its weathering in some areas and very harsh in others, but really quite amazing, I thought.
Yeah, it was. It's like somebody had grabbed it out of the where it was and plonked it right down on this black box. Yeah, I love it. I don't know why. It's not colourful. It's all very similar hues of colour, which I guess something would be, wouldn't it, if it's left outside? The colour would be drained out of it mostly.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just agreed. I agreed that you wanted a nut on it, so I'll let you.
Yeah, it's very good. There's some very subtle elements in there. So one of the wheels is on a box. The tire's missing, but the inner part is underneath the car or thereabouts. There's if we have a look at the seating, you can see the seating's got plants growing out of it and all sorts of stuff like that. A bit of wood's been thrown in there. Some of the what would have been, I guess, the canopy. What's left of it is hanging off it and all that sort of thing. So it's and one side rusted through, which is quite cleverly done. Yeah, but the one thing that I don't know if they meant to do it, but it sort of popped into my head as I was looking at it. So the base is obviously like a little bit of grass, but it's very dry and almost scorched, if you like.
Mm.
However, the edges of the ground are black, so it almost implies as if there's been a fire at some point.
Well, also it's like a vignette. You know what a vignette is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you take a photograph and you have that kind of darker outside or lighter but darker edges, that kind of reminds me of a vignette, and it draws your focus into the center, having that black around it. I think
it does. It's very subtle and very clever, I thought.
Yeah, I don't think it's anything to do with being burnt. I don't
think. Okay, my imagination.
He'll contact us and go, yeah, it's definitely.
He will. He will indeed. So now this one, the next one that I put on was a bit controversial.
Why is that?
So again, I'm not going to name names because that would be incredibly unfair and unprofessional. But this caused a bit of controversy over the judges as they were judging it.
Oh, okay.
And now I can't repeat the conversation because that would effectively be eavesdropping on something that I shouldn't have been eavesdropping in and being rude. So I won't repeat it. But I was quite intrigued. I was quite intrigued in the conversation they were having. So basically, they were discussing. Let me explain what it is, because those that aren't watching on YouTube won't know, will they? So this is a tanker of some description. I would guess it's a German or maybe Italian type vehicle, which has been abandoned for a long time. Someone's been fiddling with the engine, obviously given up. There's bits of rag on the side and all sorts, but very, very well rusted vehicle. Now, I've purposely not used the word heavily rusted because it's very subtle in the way it has. The paint's peeled off, revealing the metal underneath, which has then oxidized and rusted. But it was quite interesting to listen to the judges discuss what they thought of this particular model, because in some ways, I guess, maybe it's not an effect in which they're either familiar with or indeed comfortable with, maybe would be a better phrase.
Okay.
So they were unsure on quite how to take some of the elements that had been shown on there. Which at first made me go, yeah. But listening to the conversation a little bit more, overhearing the conversation as we went round, so it was very bitty. But it was very interesting to listen to what the judges, how they talked, because obviously I think there was an element of certainly some loved it, some hated it, some wasn't quite sure what to make of it.
Okay.
Right. So they discussed it through, and that was quite interesting to hear them sort of backwards and forwards, and the one that was neither here nor there in their judgment because they weren't quite sure, I guess, was throwing questions in and going, well, yeah, but would the metal rust like that? Would the paint come off at that angle and this? And it was thoroughly taken apart by the judges in their viewing of it, which was a little insight you don't get to see. If I'm honest.
Well, yeah, I guess they have to hash it out between them, don't they? So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, but
there's no doubt in my mind what it's showing. There's no doubt in my mind that it's showing rust. It's showing paint falling off. It was painted previously, you know. And yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was bang on for me, anyway.
Yeah, I did as well. And I think one of the things in which was interesting for me was the groundwork. Again, it showed the rust as well. It showed that it'd come off. It showed that the paint had peeled off and fallen onto the ground and then rusted, or maybe a layer of metal had even fallen onto the ground and rusted.
Yeah.
The bit of rag and stuff on the side and hanging, just made me giggle. Just looked brilliant. It wasn't a negative thing. It was really a positive. It just made it look
Well, it says in the entry card, and I don't know how much they're allowed to read. Well, it's there as a the information that the person provides. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so they says it's an abandoned tanker from Malaya in
Mm-hmm.
1949, and they, I assume that the judges would have read that. So, you know,
No,
and it tells you how they did it as well. So they didn't have to
Yeah.
put down that information, do you?
No, you don't have to. You can when you do the card. So just to clarify, this is actually a Bedford. So it's a British vehicle, Bedford OLB, long wheelbase. You can put as much information as you like to assist the judges in understanding what it is you're trying to get across. So you can put the techniques that you've used. You're depending on the class that you're in, you may have to list, whether bits have been added to a kit, or whether it's a resin kit, or whether it's scratch built, or those sort of things. It's all really helpful because if you build an item that you can buy as a kit, but you scratch build most of it, if you don't explain that, they might not get it, might not see that effort you've made. It is more about the representation and what it's the subject matter is telling you, as we've referred to earlier, and to whether it's realistic and as our own criteria, as whether it was believable. But yeah, you can put. I mean, I've seen people enter into this competition with almost a photo album of the stages with everything explained completely all the way through.
Yeah. Yep.
Whether the judges read it all or not, I don't know. But it's there. If there's something that needs to be checked, it's there. You generally, if you're building a kit, you generally will put the instructions underneath as well. So there's you can see that it's from that kit.
Oh, out of the box, you mean?
Yeah. So some of the categories, like I say, some of them are literally you're not allowed to have maybe might not allow photo etch or resin parts or stuff like that. So you have to show that this is the kit. And then the judges are, I guess, quite good at knowing what's in a kit and what's not. So, but yeah, there is a bit of a rusty theme going on here, I must admit. But
it's what we like.
Looks unbelievable. Yeah,
that's what we like. That's it. Well, else we're judging it on what we liked. Was it noteworthy? Yes, it was.
Oh, yes, it was. So I'm going to let you talk about this one, Malcolm, the next one.
Well, remember the conversation we had at the time?
I did, yes.
Yes.
I made a choice that I thought this was noteworthy, and Malcolm agreed with me,
yes,
but couldn't comment any further.
Yes, this isn't actually true. What I thought was true isn't true. So this isn't somebody's that I know of.
Oh, is it not?
No, it's not. So originally, when we saw this one, this is like 3 Romans with big red flowing capes. I saw that there in the competition. I thought very nice, but I carried on because I know that I thought I knew the painter. But you said that you wanted to put a nut on it, so I said, "Well, go for it." Then. But I didn't want to do it because I knew the guy, so I don't want to just nut on all my friends. God.
And just to clarify, I'm not sure these are Roman. I think you'll find they are Spartans.
All right. Well, they've got shields and spears, and they've got sandals on. So, that's the limit of my historical knowledge. You got another picture of them? Just that one?
No, I only took the one, I think.
Okay. So it's got Onward to Glory, resin figures painted in acrylic paint. And it was the red capes that stood out for you, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The story of the movement in this piece moved me. Definitely. Yeah. It's just very good. It's three figures running, and they're flapes. They're flapes.
Flapes.
The material behind them was very truly being caught by the wind. It was very well
capes
done.
are flowing. Is that what you were going to say? Flowing
That
capes.
was what I was trying to say. Yes,
Flapping
flipping figures.
flapping capes.
But yeah, it was just very good. And also the other thing as well, I seem to remember now. I might be wrong on this, and I'd love if the person does let himself known who the actual builder was.
Or her.
I'd love to know if, or her indeed. I'd love to know if I'm wrong or right. But the base looks very slaty in its the way it's painted, etc.
Yeah.
And initially, I actually thought it was bits of slate that had been glued together and put down, which I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it has been painted, but it just looks so real to me. I just thought, wow, it's just amazing. So yeah, well done.
Yeah, I liked it. Those red capes are brilliant, fantastic, really good.
I say an awful lot. What's next? Oh, there we go. Back to our theme again. So this next item is
this is the same guy. You know that, right?
As the tanker.
No, as the the Ford.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Okay.
I believe.
So this is the same as the T Model T. Well, it's not. It's completely different, but it's by the same person. I didn't know that. No.
Oh no, sorry. No, I'm completely wrong. Oh gosh, it's well rehearsed and researched, isn't it? The Model T. Sorry, the model. No, the Model T and the Bedford tanker was built by the same person. This is
right. That makes sense.
Somebody else. My apologies.
Right. So what we're looking at the moment is a piece called Down and Out, push thing, and this is a push tractor that's embedded in a swamp terrain, and it's just obviously abandoned because they couldn't get it out. But what I really liked about this is super heavily rusted, but it's obviously had parts taken off it. They've salvaged bits and pieces, or bits have been stolen, whatever. But it's clearly been there for a long time. But it just looks really believable. And I don't know the kit that well, but I'm guessing there's some scratch building going on in there as well.
What I liked about it is that it looks like it had been rusted right down to the core of this tractor.
Yeah,
there's no tractor left. Essentially, it's just a pile of bits of tractor.
Yeah,
and
well, you certainly got
when the tractor's been in the swamp for that long, it's going to be just removed. It's going to be destroyed. And I really like that. It wasn't just rusted on the outside; it rusted three-dimensionally.
What brought my eye to that comment that you just made was on the right hand side of it. Its fender has been removed, and they've chipped away at the floor panel, etc., to give you that layered rust effect that you get when metal rusts and falls apart. Obviously, the element missing is not there either. So that makes it so much more believable because there's that sort of deterioration in the body itself. It just, I thought it was quite remarkable. I've got to be honest.
Yeah, without that seat, that kind of bucket seat and that steering wheel, you wouldn't know what vehicle that was anymore, would you?
No, it would be one of those things you look at, similar like a desert. When you see some of the things left in the desert from the Second World War, etc., you look at it and think, "Oh, is that what I think it is?" And you sort of there's elements or curves to a body shape that you are familiar with that make you believe it to be a certain type of vehicle. It's not quite that bad, but it's not far off. So yeah, very very good deterioration.
Very good. It says there's a scratch-billed blackbird on the tree. We didn't quite catch that in the photograph.
No, we didn't, did we?
Shame.
No. I blame the photographer.
Yeah.
Idiot. Okay, so next now this one was something that I think we both reacted immediately to when we saw it. didn't we?
Yeah, immediate unanimous decision.
Yeah. It was the only time that I did wonder whether Malcolm would be dipping in my pockets to pull my nuts out to pop on the table.
I didn't touch them. You're the one that put more out.
No, I think you felt a bit inhibited about it because obviously I was walking around with them in my pouch in front of me. But anyway,
I had nowhere properly to put them, really.
No, that's right, and that's the only reason I was carrying them. It wasn't for any other bonus that I might get if you reached in it. Anyway, let's move on very quickly. So this is a 156, I think it was, wasn't it?
Hang on. Let me fixed Sherman.
It was an air fixture, quite right. So yeah, so 176 air fix Sherman.
I guess. Yeah.
Now, but what it is, it's displayed in a quite a large base, but it's a water scene, and it's the DD Sherman. So it is the one with the skirt up, chugging along towards the beach.
Yes.
I've not seen that before, so that I thought was just really, really cleverly done, and the framework as well was quite. Again, I don't know if it's accurate.
Is it called a skirt? Is that what they called it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought the skirt was the thing that kind of hangs out over the wheels. So I'm just trying to think people in the podcast, or gardening, or driving their truck, or cleaning the oven, whatever they're doing. If I say there's a tank with its skirt up, they're going to be able to imagine this.
I think it's a skirt. So basically, if you're not aware of what I mean by the DD Sherman tank, it was basically a canvas attachment to the hull of the ship, which elevated up to create a boat shape. The tank also had a propeller on the back, so it could give it propulsion in the water. And the idea was, once it hit the beach, with a flick of a lever, it was called a skirt. I'm pretty certain it was called a skirt. Anyway,
it says it in the description. It does say skirt. Yeah.
So when you hit the beach, they could flick a switch, and the skirt would fall down, which would give them the ability to fire at the enemy, etc. But it was really cleverly done, and I've seen these DD tanks scratch built with the mechanism. I know there is. I believe I'm right in saying there is an addition you could buy for a kit to make it either up or down.
Okay.
But can't remember the maker. But I'm pretty certain there is. But most people would scratch build it, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And really who doesn't like one of the wonders of science that was used in the Second World War?
That Sherman was. I'd never seen anything like that done that way before. And the water was very convincing. It was very neatly done. And just stood out to me. It was really good. Loved it.
Cool. So the next one now. So the funny part about this for me was this was actually in the section where I had a model in the competition. Luckily, they hadn't done the judging, so we quickly went through that area. And this particular piece was a very, very clever piece.
Yeah,
wasn't it, Malcolm?
Loved it. Yeah, really cool.
So what it was, it's basically a what they would term as a shadow box. So it's a frame, a picture frame with a model inside, and you've got two figures at a lathe with lighting. So you've got some lights hanging from the ceiling, and obviously the factory wall, if you like. But the factory wall goes off at quite a steep angle away from the left-hand side of the frame to almost probably about 80%, about 75% of the square footage of that frame, if you like. So quite a way over. Or does it?
the line for it is about, but above the lady on the left's head. That's where the cut line is for the mirror.
Mm.
So those the two beams at the back. Those are the repeated.
Yeah. So the clever part was that actually the frame wasn't that deep, but it appeared to be an awful lot deeper than it was, and that's because they put a little piece of mirror all the way along the back, just quite central. Actually, I would have thought.
Yep.
Which then obviously repeated the other part of the picture. So some very, very clever designing there in that piece, and it did create a little bit of confusion for us, didn't it? To start with.
Yes, it did, because I couldn't
whether
work out.
Really...
I couldn't work out at all. Smoke and mirrors.
And I think that the bit that actually convinced him was the bit where he knelt down and saw his face in the factory.
Yeah, if you got down to the bottom left and looked right down to the back, you could actually see yourself looking into the factory, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it really is nice, and it really makes a mess of your own kind of perspective, because you're expecting it to be a flat image behind that frame, but it ain't. You're kind of hanging in the top ceiling of a factory, looking down on these two people. One of them is a woman, working on this lathe in a factory. It's called my mum, the day the bomb dropped. They're obviously building something in the war.
They're building parts for a Rolls-Royce engine in Crewe.
Oh yes, Rolls-Royce and Crewe. Yeah, oh yes.
And just to confirm that, there was a picture, although the photographer gets sacked again for that because he didn't include it. But there is actually a picture of the said factory and a bit of an explanation of the story on top as well.
Okay, all right.
Which is a great addition. One thing I would say, would appear no apparent reason, but something that I've said several times during the podcast and generally in model making is that when I do dioramas, I try my best not to use a picture as a reference that goes with the model. The reason being is you get to that point where people are going, well, I can see it's a reference picture, but is it meant to be a reference, or is it meant to be a copy of that image, if you like?
And you're not talking about this diorama specifically, though, are you? On this one?
No, not at all. No, this one is the picture works really well because it's explaining the picture that's on top of the diorama does not match what's in the diorama. In the diorama, it's inside the factory, whereas the picture shows the bomb, outsides. It shows the outside. Yeah. So whereas sometimes people do put pictures with their dioramas, which is I always feel is a bit of a dangerous thing, because it's about your perception and you're taking a 2D image to a 3D image, which can be quite tricky. And the worst possible thing you could do, in my mind, would be to put something with your model and go, well, it's sort of like that, because you're not really convincing me, because I'm looking at a picture which doesn't look anything like the model, and then that creates an issue. That's, like I say, it's my opinion. But yeah, it's but in this particular model, in this particular model, that's not the case. It's just helping to tell the story, which is a great thing to do. And actually, interestingly enough, not something I've seen in any other model show. It's quite often is the picture of the scene that's been recreated. It's not just an add-on to help you with your understanding of the image. Over you.
Yeah. I love it. And
I love that.
I love the use of the lights in it as well.
Not only did I love the fact that the mirror was in there, not only did I love the fact that it got lights in there, which helped bring out the scene more. They were quite subtle, but the use of because it's a black frame with a black internal frame as well, which really, really made it pop to me. And like I say, making you bend down to less than half your height normal to see your face in a diorama was just the best thing ever. So, not worthy. That one was
very. Would you like to build a box diorama? Looking at that,
I have tried to do a box diorama a couple of times, and it just so happens I have actually. I didn't realise I'd taken 2 pictures of this, but there is a picture of the picture on top. But all these pictures are in the album. So yeah, no, I've tried, and I have to admit that I would never. I've tried using mirrors and never really worked out how to do it successfully. But that is quite inspirational the way they've done that. And there was a stage where I was trying my best to make my models fit into a frame so I could put them on the wall because I was running out of shelf. But yeah, it's if you haven't done it, give it a go. You can really let loose with your imagination. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, I might have it one day.
There was another diorama which we didn't put a nut on, but I want to mention it because it's around the box thing that we were talking about here in this particular one that we just spoken about. But it was a jungle scene, and it was some American troops walking through the swampy swamps in the Middle East. Middle East? No, is that right? Malaysia or somewhere like that. Let's say.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
And there was a couple of Japanese soldiers in the back, but it was really, really dark, and you couldn't really see the work that the person had put into it. Do you remember the one where I said to you, "Oh, that's phenomenal, the detail inside, but it's so dark you can't see it." Do you remember?
I don't. No. Was it mean dark as in the lighting in the room was dark, or?
Yeah. So so if you remember when I did my church scene many moons ago, we discussed between us about the fact that on my bench it looked adequate. It looked like it would do everything I wanted to do. And you said to me, take it out in the garden and see if it makes any difference.
Yeah.
Which I did, because I had the stained glass windows behind at the back of the scene, and I put an image of a sunset, and I'd done some lighting and thought it would all pop and look very surreal. But it didn't. It was dull and didn't work quite how I wanted. Don't get me wrong, it probably worked in my favor, if I'm honest. But the one thing the reason I mention it is because the person, if you got right down deep and looked into the frame, because it was quite deep, it was probably about maybe 8 inches deep, the frame was, or the box was. As you looked in, there was a tree off to the left-hand side that was, the foliage was right near the front, and it was very believable that the trunk had vines growing up it. It looked really good. The figures looked pretty good. The water looked okay. And then just in the distance, you could see this Japanese soldier obviously running out of jungle going to attack these people. But all the way through the scene are all lots of tree trunks and vines and foliage and all sorts of stuff. Looked really, really good. But because the light in the room it was in couldn't penetrate the box, all it lit up was the first 5 or 6 centimeters.
Right.
So you'd lost everything behind in the shadow. And looking at it, I thought to myself, I'm guessing, I might be wrong, but I'm guessing the person's looked at it on the bench and it's looking great because you're either looking into the scene or you're building the scene and putting it in the frame later. So that looks all great. And then when you put it in the thing, you obviously may have angled it up and gone, oh yeah, no, the light looks good and that looks okay. But literally all it needed was a little LED in the top left-hand corner behind that tree's foliage, which would have absolutely made it pop. And if you were really clever, you could have almost created, if you could imagine the scene out of Platoon where the flare goes up and there's light waving through the jungle, etc.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
that's exactly what it would have done, and it would have been amazing, so amazing that actually, the more I talk about it, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I really want to try and recreate that scene in Platoon with the wavy flare lights. But and that's really difficult if you ever enter in a model into a competition. to try and understand the light that might be in that room is incredibly difficult because it does vary everywhere you go. Even to the point where I remember speaking to one of the judges, and he was saying that some people who'd come over from Greece were quite upset they didn't win any awards, and it basically comes down to the light. The light in the shows that they've put these models in Greece is obviously a lot brighter than a November overcast day in England.
Yeah. Well, the lighting was fine in there.
It was great.
For a competition, no questions about it. No problem at all about it. But,
no, what they put it this year was actually, if you haven't been for a couple of years, it would have been where the kit swap normally is. So they've got a whole wall that's a window, so it's got pure natural light coming in. So yeah, I think it's better than the mezzanine without a doubt. But yeah. So what was the next one, Malcolm?
This shadow box, just go back to it. The shadow box had lights in it itself, didn't it? You know.
Yes, the one we put the nut on. Yes, it did. And that again, like I say, it helped quite dramatically. Now, bearing in mind, these were both on the same table, so both the same distance away from the light source, which obviously the big window.
Yeah.
But because they got those small light LEDs in there, just giving a little bit more light, and also remember the light would have reflected off the mirror as well, so it would have created even more light within the box. It makes a big difference, big difference. And like I say, it's such a shame. But yeah. Anyway, our next one. I'll let you, because I talked ages. I'll let you talk about the next one.
Oh yes. So
hello.
You all right?
You may have. We may have the builder's name on this one. So on Facebook, it has in the comments. What I did is I put the album up and said, if you know whose models these are, please put the name in the comments. And a Ron Johnson has put his name in there. So I can only assume that this may be the builder.
Yes, I think he's sent us a message as well on Facebook too.
There we go.
Yeah, so let's describe it. It's a clock, 2 clocks, little tiny clocks, built on bottle caps, and they're both at 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Oh, I don't know if it's 5 p.m. or 5 a.m., but it's 5 o'clock. And I looked at it, I was like, what's that doing in the competition? Little tiny clocks, what's that about? And then I read the description. The description is that they have a competition in their club, and the theme was bottle top, and so the model had to put a diorama or whatever you wanted to on the actual bottle top. Okay, so and I thought, wow, that just screams the sort of stuff that we like, like when we did the walnut challenge and the tarp challenge and all that stuff. It's exactly right up our street, a bit of fun and all that kind of stuff. And he had a description of how he made it. He also, when he sent us a message, he also took a photograph of the back and said, "Did you look at the back?"
Oh,
yeah, and we hadn't looked at the back. I don't think we didn't touch it, did we? We probably could have seen it from the other side, but didn't think about it. But the back of it looks like a clock as well. So it's got the area for the batteries. It's got the little mechanism.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not just a clock from the front. When I first saw that, I thought that clock doesn't actually work, does it? but no, it was actually modeled on the back as well. So not only was it a clock from the front, from the back of the bottle top, it was a clock as well. Which goes against everything that I'm about when it comes to painting underneath your tank. But hey, if you're going to do a bottle top, you have to paint the other side.
Now you're right in what you said there, but what you got to remember is both these bottle tops are on stands, so they are upright.
Yeah,
so you can't,
like a clock would be.
Yeah, you can't leave them naked, I guess. But yeah, they were so fun.
Yes, they absolutely, and I loved them, and I loved the fact that they were in a bloody competition. and it was a. I did write it much more eloquently, but what I was trying to tell the guy was that it was a really great way of showing how fun the hobby can be. Just two little tiny clocks made out of bolt tops, and it would have been so fun to make, so fun to do, and to display that I really got it, and I wanted to make sure you understood that we get it, we love it.
Yeah,
Well.
yeah. It's one of those little things. I mean, I don't know how much time it would have taken him, but I'm guessing it wouldn't. It certainly would have been a lot less than building a kit.
Sure.
Complicated, yes, and he's printed some stuff and all sorts like that. But
Yeah.
it's just a real good clean of the whistle, so to speak, to try something just zany, something weird, something you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
And that's just another great example of it. So yeah, that
So
was definitely
it's in the
definitely
the class 76.
Yeah, no, 79, class 79,
Oh,
any model not specified in any other class, including other materials, SK, SSD, ASC, VS.
yeah. There you go.
So yeah, it's the odd section, if you like. But
Loved
yeah,
it.
it was really good. And yeah, it gave us pause for thought, didn't it, for future challenges, maybe.
We're not going to steal the idea, are we?
No, we're not going to steal the idea, but it certainly. I think. I mean, I don't know because I've not said this to you, obviously. So this is a bit off the cuff, but I think at the time it made me feel, and I think I understood it made you feel that that's the bit we really love, and maybe we feel a little disappointed that we haven't done it this year. So it sort of reignited that. Yeah, we got to find a crazy idea for next year, sort of thing.
Well, we don't
Although
have to
I
have
do
one
not
like
have a
every
list
year,
of things.
do we?
Well, no.
Because comes naturally, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a couple of pictures of that one because I wanted to get in there and properly. It's the size of a walnut, literally.
The walnut is as big as the clock. Yeah.
So thanks for that. Now, I'm going to show this one because I thought it was zany. We didn't nut this one, but I loved it. So this one is it's a universal carrier from World War II that has been modified for further use after the war, and it's basically got grass cutting machinery added to it, a roller on the back to get your nice lines, and obviously the main part of the back where the on top of where the engine and all that sits is the space for the grass cuttings, which I thought was quite ingenious.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
was fun about this is we just had a conversation about how you shouldn't really put your vehicle mounted straight on the base.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Remember? And we had a chat about a couple of dioramas that had done that and then hadn't done that and the difference between them. And then this was there, and it completely threw in the face everything I just said because it is perfectly straight on the base. Now, of course, if you're cutting lines in a lawn, you want straight lines, so it makes sense that it be straight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. I loved the different type lengths of flock in this one.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was. It's just. Yeah. I just love it. I think it's just so unusual. And if I'm honest, one of the things that popped into my head at the time when I looked at it was I'm aware of military vehicles being used for lots of different things after the Second World War and for some period of time, and things you wouldn't necessarily expect them to be used for. So obviously, trucks were quite often used for construction, which is quite logical. But there's quite a lot of other things that we use for construction that you wouldn't think would fit, and the universal carrier was one of them. Not for cutting lawns, but for other things within the construction industry. And I only know that because my father told me some stories and bits and pieces. But
Gotcha.
yeah, I love that. I just thought
Well,
that was quite.
it is a universal carrier and has been used universally.
It has been used universally. Yes, indeed. Okay. Right. So this one, I'm going to let you describe this one, Malcolm.
Right. So this one is a oh god, what is it? It's a hermit crab, right? Huge hermit crab with tentacles and a little eye, and it's probably about the size of an American football, or that kind of. It's big, and it's stunningly painted. It's a fantasy thing. It's a crab octopus thing. Tentacles flipping everywhere, and it's got spines on it. The sea is all wet and shiny, and it's in the sci-fi area, wasn't it? Sci-fi dioramas and things like that.
Yeah.
Class 74, this is, and
yes.
The paint job on it is absolutely gorgeous. You have to see it to understand, but it's well blended. There's texture in there. It's detailed. There's plenty of color going on. There's variation. There's all sorts. I mean, you can really believe the difference between the shell and the legs and the claws and the teeth and everything. What stood out to us though was that what stood out for you, was the fact that the tentacles and the crab and the shell was not wet, even though it was standing in water. And it clearly lived in water because it was a sea creature, but it wasn't wet.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's totally believable. Everything about it was phenomenal. The way the colours have been blended and made, so the high spots really are high spots. They really stand out. Just really stunning. And I'm sure he's on the shoreline. And the water isn't that deep at all, I'm sure. But yeah, just it confused me a little bit, I think would be maybe the best way of describing it. And we had a discussion about whether should it have water, how would you have achieved that? Was it right? Was it wrong, etc.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have made that much difference, if I'm honest, to the piece. The piece was stunning. It wouldn't have made it another level per se, but yeah, it just. I suppose, thinking about it now, looking at it, that if you attempted to do some water effect on it, you may have spoiled it or made it less convincing, I guess.
Well, the water effect that has been done on the base is convincing and is
absolutely
really cool. It's in the same sort of style as the monster. the creature is done beautifully, and the waves are done well as well. So hey, I think it'd been fine, but yeah, it was something that stood out to us we had a good old chat about this one, didn't we?
We did have a good chat, and I think our overall, over everything else, that's the one thing I love about these competitions, is where it makes you stop and look and then re-look, and then to have the ability to stand and discuss it is great. But yeah, that's what I like about model shows. Every model should stop you in your tracks and go, "Oh, I've got to think about that for a second."
Yeah, and it did. This one, I'd love to be able to produce something like this.
Oh God, wouldn't you? Yeah,
and that's why we nutted on it, because it was we did put a nut on it. I mean, because it was the paintwork's bang on and beautiful.
Yeah.
Whoever made it,
awesome. I think we stood in awe, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next one.
Can I just go back to the clock one, or
yeah, can do.
Is it gone? So I'm just looking at the Facebook page.
Yeah,
where you put the picture up, and so Ron Johnson had put a message up to say, he said, "I'd never heard of this page or podcast before, and wasn't sure what it was on the table when I picked up my model up late on Sunday afternoon. It was only when we got back to our digs for the weekend that I surfed the IPMS Scale Model World page, looking at the photos from the show, and realized why it was there. Sadly, I left the nut behind. So I'd like to say
Oh,
thank you for thinking of my little model. It was worthy of a golden nut. Over the next few days, once the dust has settled, I will listen to some of your past podcasts. And now I'm a follower. Thank you again. Thank you once again. So he hasn't listened to them yet.
yeah, no, you might not thank us afterwards.
Yes, might not be his cup of
Yeah.
tea, but
Well,
maybe James, you could get in contact with him and provide him
yeah.
with a secondary golden nut to
As
put
it
on the.
happens, I'm more than happy to do that, and I will reach out to him and say to him, I'm more than happy to pop my nut back in the post for you.
Yeah, and a
Um,
sticker
not
as
a
well
problem.
for him.
Of course, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Well, that was the danger, of course, when we did this, was that maybe someone wouldn't know who we were, but as the
Yeah,
sticker
very
says,
likely.
it was to cause a conversation.
Yeah,
And yeah, that is what we're
it
about.
really
So
did.
thank you so much for taking the time to find us and leaving the message. So this next model is actually something we now finished with the competition area.
Mhm.
We had to leave because they were busy judging the last few sections, of which mine was one, and I didn't want to be in the room while they did that. So
Yeah,
we left them
yeah,
to it.
we scooched, didn't we? We scooched.
Yes, we did. And this was the second time that I managed to get Malcolm away from the table, and we decided that what we'd do is we'd try and go around as many of the tables in the halls, 3 halls, of the Stigs and groups,
Yeah.
which we didn't get around very far. But this one tickled me greatly.
Made me laugh a lot. But yeah, I'll go. You explain to the listeners what we are looking at.
So on the table, you have a sign that says "Just Blow," which immediately got my attention because you imagine a nut and anyway. So this is I believe it was 3D printed as like a fan on the front, hence the label "Just Blow," and a mechanism that doesn't really say what it is until you start blowing. So I stood there blowing at this model, which I've got to be honest is the first time I've ever leant over a model table and blown anything.
It does say
And
the
desperately,
instructions do say just blow.
yeah, I was desperately trying to make sure that I didn't any lanyards or anything around my neck hit anything or anything like that. I was quite worried, if I'm honest. So on the third attempt of blowing, it moved, it walked crab-like across the table.
That's what I just
And
want
I
to
was like,
explain.
wow, that's amazing. I loved the interaction. I loved the fact it did what it did. I even chuckled to myself the fact that I'd been made by a sign on a table to bend over and blow at a model. That made me laugh massively.
Yeah,
But then
what I want to describe to the listeners is if anyone has seen Pob, back in the day in the UK, there was a little cartoon character, like a puppet or something, and he used to blow on the window, and then it would write Pob. If you remember how Pob used to blow on to the window, that was how James was blowing on to this fan to get this thing to move. Go Google it or YouTube Pob POB.
yeah, I'm gonna have to because I don't know that one. But yeah,
Oh, okay. But yeah, no, it was. I wish I'd looked it up before we hit the podcast today, because there's a special name for these type of mechanisms, isn't there? You blow on it,
yeah,
because it's wind powered and it starts to move. I think there's a huge video of the artist who
there is.
makes these. Yeah,
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was great that they had put the interaction and the ability for you to play with it on their table as part of their display. That was great.
Mm. And what was even better was as we were standing there chuckling and talking about it with one of the guys behind the table, a young man come up and stood beside me and was looking at it in slight awe, I
Yeah.
think.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh, I might be in your way. Do you want to give it a go?" And he went, "Oh, can I?" I was like, "Yeah, of course you can." So I stood back and that was everything. At that moment was everything that I wanted to see from that show that weekend.
Ah,
Was
nice.
the youth
Mhm.
interacting with the hobby, Can't think of a better way of doing it other than, I mean, obviously you've got your make and creates that we'll talk about in a bit. It's just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the smile on his face as well. That was the bit that I thought was remarkable. He really enjoyed blowing that fan and that model and making it walk a very short distance. But he was like quite fascinated. Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I love that. I can't remember. Was it Sweden? The artist was based in
Norway, Sweden.
Norway. Oh no, Norway. Norway.
Was it?
It was Norway.
Norway.
Yeah, I remember now. Norway. But these things are in museum. He's actually had to build new ones, put the original first ones into a museum.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, brilliant. So, you can talk about this one. I've got a couple of pictures for this one, but I'll let you explain and describe it.
Yeah. So, So this was on. We were out of the competition. We'd been walking around. I can't remember which group this is on. Does it say? Oh, Norfolk scale model group. There you go. This is the Anito 1/12 scale model. It's a Lancia Stratos. It's a sort of a mid-blue color. And all the doors and windows are open. Now, remember, this is 1/12 scale, so it's quite beast. You could, it's sort of remote control car scale, I suppose. It's gorgeous because it is weathered to the nth degree. It looks like it's just gone through the muddiest rally stage known to man or beast. And what's really cool about it, because all the doors and windows are open, everything inside is nice and clean. All the mud's on the outside, but the mud's done really, really well. Lovely, it's it was just very believable the way that it had been done. It was, I don't know, piqued my interest and kind of grabbed me off the concourse to go and have a look at it. Yeah. But what did you think about it?
It was very clever, very, very clever. I mean, it's obviously one of the Lombard rally vehicles. If you're into your rally, the mud was caked all in the right places in an appropriate manner. The interior even had little maps in the door as well as seat and other bits and pieces. So a bit, not just mud, but other stuff that you might have seen or had around for those those bits of the rally, toolboxes and all that. And they were just basically getting ready for the next stage. No time to clean it, no time to worry about it. Quite dusty as well as muddy as well, which is you quite forget, because you would have got in those sort of rallies you've got it going through water, so that's where the mud gets picked up, and then it's obviously as it goes through the stage it dries, but then all the dust is onto the vehicle, which then dries the moisture on the vehicle. So very, very clever, and lots of little tiny details that sort of popped out at me, which made me go, oh yeah, that's just lush. I mean, even one of the things that really I thought was really quite amazing, very difficult, I should imagine, to do as well, on the windscreen itself, where the wipers have gone across the windscreen, you've got the build up of mud up the areas you'd expect them to be built up, and then the rest of the screen being muddy, but it's had water on it, so it's cleared to a point. A little bit of smearing as well, where got some mud into underneath the wiper exit. Just everything about it just looked that much detail was put into it. And I know the guy was really happy to. I don't think it was the modeler, was it? It wasn't the person that made it that we spoke to. He was out looking at something or other. But he said that, oh yeah, no, this guy had taken ages over doing this. Right passion. So yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful model, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. There's little drain covers and stuff like that, and
its base, funnily enough, isn't a rally, is it? So it's obviously it's finished a stage, and it's next to a curb, lots of grass in the curb and a guttering of the road, etc. So it's obviously at that point just after a stage, getting ready for the next stage.
Stunning.
So yeah,
should have been in the
quite clever.
competition.
Should have, yeah, definitely.
Well, glad it wasn't because we saw it.
Oh yeah. Okay, so the next one. Is a subject matter that I'm somewhat into at the moment. I have been for some time. So this is the rear section of a horse glider in 135th from Bronco, I seem to remember. Which in itself, when you look at it as a kit, you think to yourself, ugh, not really. Is it worth doing that? But this particular model is done incredibly well because there are lots of figures all over the place on it, and it's on a little turntable, so as it moves around the scene, you can catch up with what's going on. So at one side, you've got a casualty. Maybe the pilot has got injured on the landing, being looked after by a medic. You've got other people getting stuff out and getting stuff ready to move on, and where this tail section is, it's just next to a little road. So they've got a jeep there and some other figures, etc. And there's just so much going. There's lots crammed into this scene, lots and lots. I mean, there's 12, 14 figures, something like that, I think, off the top of my head. It just went on and on and on as you look at the thing. It's just beautifully done. Nice hedges. Because obviously it's landed in a grassy field, so you've got lots of different textures and stuff going on. It's just really, really nice. I loved it. Bear with me a second. Anything you want to say about
that? No, I was just enjoying listening to you and putting my pita bread that I had in my mouth.
Sorry, I wasn't looking.
That's okay. I didn't see it. I think this was one you said, "Oh, I'm gonna put nut on this."
Ah, yes, right.
Said, "Oh, yeah, okay." I didn't really get to look at it, but it's British Airborne, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
and they piled out of this back of this glider, and yeah, it's a lot of going on, but it was interesting. It was interesting because your one that we haven't talked about yet was would obviously be very relevant in this one because you've got in your one you've got the guys getting ready and the guys thinking about it, and this one they are actually doing it. They are actually getting out of it after the mission. So yeah, it's interesting. I like that you picked it as well. What's going on?
So one of the things in which I liked about this particular model was that the kit is literally that. It is literally the tail end of the horse glider. But the final piece that you put into the kit, which is a part of the framework of the horse glider, is actually not in the kit. It's just placed, so it looks like it's dislodged, basically. The seat, because in that particular part of the horse glider, there's two seats. One of the seats is broken, clearly broken. So it tells an awful lot. This, like I say, there's a lot of different individual stories with one story. So it just really sung to me.
Yeah, it's lovely. Really good.
So the next one, we're getting very close to the end of our nuts, would you believe?
So good. I'm looking forward to talking about the last one.
Yeah, that is down to you. I'm going to quickly just describe this last one. So this is a very large Stuka. It's actually a remote controlled Stuka which flies. So it's massive, really, really massive. Just looked the nuts, fun enough. And I couldn't help but put a nut on there. But one thing in which we did say that we would do is we would give out our nuts, but we would also have what we would call the Grand Nut Award.
Yeah.
And before we gave the Grand Nut Award, Malcolm wanted to clarify why it was called the Grand Nut. So when I got the walnuts, I sized them, put in sizes, and there was one abnormally large and one very poor small one. So this particular nut I put on the Stuka was the smallest nut I had painted. And there's a reason for that. And what was that reason, Malcolm?
I don't know. I don't know. I can't remember. I know that the
so glad we didn't script this.
No.
So the grand nut. Where was the grand nut allocated in relation to this one?
Next to.
There we go. That's why I did it. It was because I wanted to differentiate the size difference between the nuts. So that brings us on to the grand nut, which you're going to talk about right now.
Oh, yes. So the LMA, the Large Model Association, had a table up at Top Hall 3, and they had a nice little display of 3 aircraft on there. And the reason they only had 3 aircraft on their entire table was because they're absolutely massive. They're quarter scale. The one on the end was a triplane, okay, with LO written on the side, and you could see this thing from the other side of the room, right? Absolutely huge. But when you go up close, it was beautiful. You know, it was a really well weathered, really well made, really well painted. It was quite accurate, you know, in terms of all the rivets and everything on there. And they had a video of it, of their Model Association day, you know, and it had a guy flying it, and it looked beautiful. I just felt that it deserves something, because there's also a pretty cool story about it as well. So this particular remote control airplane.
Before you say that,
yeah.
Before you say that, let's just make sure that the listeners understand that we'd made the decision that this was going to get the Grand Nut Award.
Yeah.
It wasn't until we presented it, the backstory came out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. Once we talked to the guy. In fact, no, but I had decided in my head which one was going to get the Grand Nut. You had decided in your head which one was the Grand Nut was, and we both picked the same plane. They both picked the same model, and it was this one. So that was quite cool. But this was the one that we wanted to put the nut on, the big one, the one that we like the most in the whole room. Now, so the story. Do you want me to tell the story about?
Yeah, please. Sorry.
Yeah. So this particular model is flying, obviously, like I said, but it was 20 years old. Okay, so it hadn't just been built. It's 20 years old. It's been flying for 20 years, never crashed. The chap who owned it, had died 3 weeks prior to the show, and they were displaying it. The guy who's now kind of in ownership of this thing, or called the custodian of this aircraft, was at the show, and he was displaying his, this aircraft to everybody. There's a whole story behind the whole thing as well. That the replica of the triplane was a pilot. You got it on there, haven't you? Ernst Ubet. Yeah. And it had LO on the side because he had a wife called Eleanor, and he used to call her Hello, I guess.
No.
Yeah. No. Is that right? Yeah. And so we put LO on the side of all his aircraft that he flew. It's a lovely story, and I love the plane.
Yeah, it was. It's not something that's usual for Telford to have. So that stood out straight away. But like you were saying earlier, when it comes to the Grand Nut, it basically was an unsaid thing, because I said to Malcolm, we need to do the Grand Nut. Have you got any ideas? And he just like rolled his eyes backwards, because we were standing near it at the time I asked him. And I was like, oh, that's funny, because I was thinking the same thing. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
really cool.
Lovely.
So
I'm just
yeah,
going to look
that
after that one
was
actually, and we're going to try and see if we can get that guy on who's now looking after
yes,
that aircraft. Get him to talk to us.
yeah,
Get him to talk to
yeah.
us.
Super. It could be super fun actually because there's a lot there to talk about. I think.
Yes, love to.
So that was our Telford experience. A big thank you to everybody that come and said hello to us. We had a few hellos for Just Bacon Conversation. Obviously,
It
we're known
is.
for other things as well, but it was pretty cool to be called out.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Thank you,
Actually,
everybody, for your tolerance of us putting our nuts on your work, and understand the fun of it is good. I will reach out to you, Ron, definitely, and get your replacement out to you ASAP. But yeah, so that is Telford. There you go. We won't mention. No, we won't mention that. No need to.
okay. I'm going to mention it anyway. You got gold. You got gold for your diorama.
I did, yeah. I got gold.
Fairly deserved as well. Well done. It was a talking point for a lot of people, and it was clear, looking through them, that it was easy to get the story from what you were showing.
Yeah.
Some of them you had to really kind of go, oh, what are they trying to say here? What are they trying to say? But yours was bang on and very clear what it was going on, and it was very poignant, especially the time of year, of course.
Yeah, of course.
If you haven't seen it, it's if you haven't seen it, where you been? It's a
banging
diorama
on
on a
about it for
circular
months.
base. Yeah, diorama on a circular base with grass, and the back area of this base is in monochrome or black and white
Yeah.
color, but some slight color in there. And the foreground is a chap, the 101st Airborne patch on. Is that an American guy, and he's sat on his bench with a bag and a walking stick, and kind of sitting there, kind of contemplating the scene behind him, which is obviously in his thoughts, in his mind. Yeah, and it works really well. Absolutely beautiful. And it was
So
a
obviously
stunner.
the time of year we do it is Remembrance Sunday, which is always
Mm.
observed incredibly well at Scale Model World. So it was a reflection on that event as well. The one thing that at first worried me a little bit with the figure at the front was that the facial features weren't very good on the print. But actually that worked in its favor because it meant that the person wasn't distinct, whereas the people behind him in the monochrome were distinct. So there's lots of different ways you can look at it and think about it. But the sacrifice, it was called the sacrificing colors, I think it was, or something like that. I can't remember what I called it now. What did I call it?
Color of Sacrifice, wasn't it?
Color of Sacrifice. Thank you. Yes, that's right. I knew I got that wrong. And which was a reflection of the colors used, so the monochrome and the color, but also the fact that sometimes while we remember those we've lost, whether it be through conflict or age, the survivors still are sometimes lost too. So, yeah, quite deep and meaningful, but yeah, it won a gold, and I'm very grateful for that. So that's cool.
Yeah, I'm just going to share it on the screen, so if you're on YouTube, you can get to see it. There you go.
There we go. There it was.
Yeah, really good.
And the bench. So yeah, basically what happened was I had to rebase this because I wasn't happy with the original base. So the bench I made, I scratch built, but when I took it all apart, it didn't go very well. So I spoke to a colleague and a friend who 3D printed me some benches,
Right.
which what it was is really funny. The only reason I mentioned it because it's funny. We were talking in Discord, and I said to him, "Oh, have you got any 3D bench files?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, no worries." I said, "Oh, brilliant! Is there any chance can I have them?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll sort it out for you, no problem." Well, anyway, 4 days went past, and I'm like, he's not emailed me the files over. I really need to get this printed. So I reached out to him and said, "Oh, you remember those files?" And he went, "Yeah, I popped them in the post." What? It's a
What, a
3D.
USB
What?
stick?
No, he printed me out the 2 benches and popped them in the post. And I was like, "Oh, that's really kind of you. Thanks so much." But when we were talking at the show, I said to him, "You could have just emailed me and I could have printed it myself." And he's like, "Oh, I never thought of that." But he was panicking. The reason funny because he was panicking whether he'd get here in time.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh. But yeah, it is 3D resin bench. However, what's even funnier, the legs are not. Because when I took the supports off, I don't think I've got it to show. I'll put a picture up with the podcast of the other one. When the legs broke off.
Oh.
But they broke because it's resin, it's quite brittle, and it didn't break in a very particularly good way. So I ended up having to shave the legs off to the base of the seat and then replace the legs with wood.
Gosh.
But yeah,
But
it was
that
good.
was last minute, I guess, was it?
Yeah, it was last minute. The piece wasn't finished until Wednesday. So and the reason I did it was purely because I'd been challenged by Carl Smith because this was a piece that was meant to be done in June, but obviously because of some minor illness,
Yeah,
I couldn't do
like
it.
that. Yeah.
So I was challenged by Carl to not only finish that build but bring it to Telford and put it in the competition. So ticked all the boxes and then won something too. So even better.
Bloody hell! Yeah. So that I guess Did you started this before your bypass?
Yeah. I started this piece in February when I first started this.
Wow.
And what's even more remarkable, and I hope the judges don't kick themselves too much for it, but it's the first time I've done monochrome figure painting as well. I think I got away because of the way I did it. I think I got away with a lot, if I'm honest. But yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed doing it.
Well done, you. Well done, Carl, as well.
Yeah. That's what modeling's about. Everyone's supporting you and pushing you forward.
Yes.
So we have got this to talk about.
Miss World Cup.
Let's talk about the Miss World Cup. Boom. Woo-hoo. Yes, we do. I haven't done anything. Sorry.
Okay. Well, that was the Miss World Cup update. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Oh gosh, I remember we used to do that. The last one was like, oh, we have to do a Mooser update. There's nothing to do. Oh, okay. No, I haven't. I was meant to buy some styrene from the last show, was Scale Model World, and I forgot. So I don't have any of the right styrene. I have some resin I have purchased, so that's good. It's right here. So that's another step. It took a while to come through them in the post, actually. There we go. Got myself some resin for. Oops, it's not the microphone. Sorry about that. Got some resin. I've got the submarine in a Lego box, so I think I probably had previously. I'll show you that. There you go. There she is.
How long is that?
What?
How long is that?
How long is what?
Your brick harbour that you've got it in.
Do you want to know in studs or in size?
In size.
What size is?
That's less than 10 inches.
Hang on. It's 22 centimeters.
Which is less than 10 inches. I'm going to double check
Probably.
that.
Why?
My maths. Because I might have a solution for you. How many centimeters?
So the actual box will the resin will be 19 centimeters from front.
Bingo.
Front to back. Why? What you got? What's that? Perspex.
So this is Perspex. These are the feet for what was a COVID screen.
COVID.
So if I
right.
send you, I don't know if that'll work actually. Now I've thought about it a bit more.
Well, I'd need 2 pieces that size, and then don't worry, I will buy some.
I've got multiple pieces, but they are curved. So that's not going to work, is it?
Yeah, don't worry. I will. Thank you. I will source my styrene myself. And then I need to do the river base, and I need to just get on with it. But I haven't had a full day to sit down and properly do it, because I need to paint the submarine as well. I need to paint it. I need to sort out the periscopes. I need a proper day to think about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And I don't want to rush it. And I haven't had a full chunk of time. Not the microphone again. I haven't had a full chunk of time to be able to do concentrate on it. So I hope in December that I will have taking some time off. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, I haven't done anything to mine either. Nothing's moved forward whatsoever. So you're not alone. But yeah, we'll try and get it done in December. I'll push you along if I can, where I can.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be fine. I'll get it done. It's just I haven't had the time. Brilliant. Well, Telford was great. We're definitely going to go again.
Yeah, accommodation's already booked.
Yep. Thanks very much to anyone who popped over and said that some people came over at the M4H stand and said, "Oh, I recognise your voice. You Malcolm?" And I'd like cover my name badge and go, "No, for me." But yeah, it was great. It was really great fun. Thank you for coming and say hi.
You had great fun when someone came over and says, "James here," and you said no, and they went, "Oh, that's good. I wanted to speak to you anyway."
Yes, yeah. You'll be happy he's not here. That was cool. We had a good time.
It was a wonderful time. Loved it. And a roll on next year.
Mm-hmm.
So that is us for this episode. Thank you very much for tuning in. We will be back when we're back. Like I said, we hopefully will have someone in for an interview in relation to a large scale models. And there may be something else up the sleeve as well. But if there's anything else,
as soon as you press stop, there will be something else. But
yeah, of course,
nothing that I can think of off the top of my head.
Cool. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this evening, or today, or whenever you watch this. But take care. Bye.
Bye.